So today we are going to discuss about the PN junction diode. Now in previous classes, you have learned about the PN junction IV characteristic. And your I is basically given as exponential function of applied voltage. So I is equal to I naught exponential QV by eta KT minus 1. Eta is basically ideality factor. So if you see the IV curve of PN junction diode, it conducts very well. In fact, the relationship is exponential in first quadrant, right? Or when the diode is forward bias. In reverse bias, it does not conduct so well, and current is more or less constant with certain very small current, and we call it reverse saturation current. And the application of this diode, you can basically use some kind of rectifier, right? So if you apply a voltage, so for positive voltage it will conduct, for negative voltage it will not conduct. And you have different slopes at different points. So if you choose different operating point, you can get different dynamic resistance, right? So this application of PN junction diode and the IV curve of PN junction diode, you have already learned in your basic course. Now in this course, you will learn how to relate this IV curve with the diode parameter. So if you design a diode, with the doping, right, with the type of material, so how the IV curve of this particular diode will depend on the device parameter, right? So that we will discuss in today's class. Okay. Now, broadly, you can say there are two types of junction. Most of the junctions are actually graded junctions, right? They are usually graded. So when you implant or diffuse, and we have seen when we diffuse, what kind of curve we get, right? So if we diffuse, this is a surface, then you may get either profile, or you may get some kind of Gaussian distribution with peak at the surface. When you implant, you may get some kind of distribution where peak in the at certain depth, right? So these are all graded junction where the doping is not constant, but it is a function of position. And that is applicable for both, whether you make this diode by diffusion or you make this diode by implantation. So this dopant, donor or acceptor, they vary over length. Now, a simplified form of a junction is a step junction, and we can approximate, sometimes these devices by step junction, but they exist in reality also. For example, when you grow a device by epitaxy, right? That time, or for those devices, you have perfectly, almost perfect step junction within a couple of monolayers. So that step junction will have uniform N doping and P doping across the metallurgical junction. So the junction is sharp. Now, so what we will do, first we will go through the step junction, right? Then we will extend the result to graded junctions also, because step junction is mathematically easier to analyze. At equilibrium, now equilibrium is a condition where you do not apply any voltage and not inject any current. So injected current and applied voltage both are zero. So basically, PN junction, the terminals are open. They are not neither connected to a voltage source nor connected to a current source. But what will happen if you have this PN junction here? Now p type will have lot of holes, n type will have lot of electrons, and at the metallurgical junction there is a gradient, a sharp gradient, right? So these electrons and holes, they will diffuse to the other side, right? When this charge is diffused, so diffusion will take place only for mobile charges, right? The fixed ions will not move. So the fixed ions will be exposed. If electron goes from this place, then Nd plus ion will be exposed. If hole goes from here, Na minus ion will be exposed. So there will be a field here due to these fixed charges, and that field will result in built-in potential. You might have encountered I or V gamma or VBI. That is built-in potential. Now, when you apply a voltage, right? In that case, electron and hole, right? Both will take part in current. So current due to current can be due to electrons and current can be due to holes. There are two mechanisms: drift and diffusion. So it can be due to drift of electron or diffusion of electron. It can be due to drift of hole or diffusion of hole. So there are four components basically, right? Now, not okay. Are we back?
Yes. Yes,
Actually, there
Yes,
was a
sir.
power glitch, so it just got disconnected. Is it still recording? Okay, it's still recording. Okay, good. So where we were? You can see the screen. So I was telling there are four current components, right? Two due to electron and holes, and two due to drift and diffusion, right? So each electron can drift or diffuse, each hole can drift or diffuse, right? So there are four current component in total. It is not that in a particular region all four components will be dominant. Diffusion current will dominate typically at the metallurgical junction or around that. Drift component will usually dominate where there is electric field, right? So, so each region will have certain permutation combination of these four currents, four components, right? Now, in equilibrium, all these four components will add up to zero at all the locations. At all the locations along the diode, all these four components will add up to zero, right? But when we apply the bias, the magnitude of these four components will change and you will have overall current. And another point to note here is that the overall current, the sum of these four components will be constant. You know, if there is no charge build-up anywhere, the current will be constant throughout the diode. Correct? So now let us look at the p-type semiconductor and n-type semiconductor individually. In p-type semiconductor, where is the Fermi level? Fermi level is below the intrinsic level. Right? In n-type semiconductor, Fermi level is above the intrinsic level. Right? when they come together, and if you don't apply any bias, they will be in equilibrium. So in equilibrium, their Fermi level has to be aligned, right? So their conduction band and valence band, right? They will basically follow some kind of this relationship, right? Now that means if you see here there are a lot of holes, here there are a lot of electrons, but in this region, in the transition region, what will happen? If you see the gap, right? The gap between Fermi and the conduction band, right, is decreasing, right? So that means here the concentration is changing from small n to large n, and in between it is less. And if you see the gap between Fermi level and the valence band, it's increasing, right? So it is changing from a large p to a small p. So you can summarize basically the Fermi level must be constant at equilibrium, bands will bend, and of course if you move away from this junction, these bands will retain their original shape, right? So this will be normal p type and normal n type, right? So what is happening basically, these carriers, the mobile carriers, are jumping across the metallurgical junction, right? So if you see here, this is a picture. So here this charge under circle, they are fixed charges. So this is basically Na minus. Charge under circle here is Nd plus, donor atoms, and these are holes and these are electrons, right? So if you look at the individual charge concentration, so total charge density is hole concentration plus donor positive ions minus electron concentration minus acceptor negative ions, right? And whole thing multiplied by Q. So if you want to find number of holes, it will be large here, it will be small here. If you want to find number of donors, it will be large here, small here. If you want the number of electrons, it will be large here, small here. Now this is inverted because the charge is negative. Number of acceptor ions is large here, small here. Or basically it's actually zero if it is only doped with donors, right? It will be zero, right? So just for the sake, it is shown to be separate line, but they are coinciding with the axis. Now, out of these are fixed charges. The donor ions and the acceptor ions, they are fixed charges. So move. Only the electron and holes will move, right? So holes will move from high concentration to low concentration, and electrons will also move from high concentration to low concentration. So what will happen? What will happen? This region will basically get depleted of carriers because these electron and holes, they would have jumped across and recombined, exposing the fixed charges. Now fixed charges, when they are exposed, they will create a field. What will be the direction of field? Field direction will be from positive charge to negative charge. So it will be from right to left or N to P. Now this charge, what it will do? It will oppose the electron movement because electron move opposite to the field. So it will push away these electrons. Holes, they move along the field. So it will push away the holes, right? So basically the drift current, the drift due to the produced electric field will oppose the further diffusion. So at equilibrium, the total current is zero, right? So if you just want to write for holes, so J is basically Q times mu times E minus Q dP by dx, right? This will be zero. So from this also you can get the electric field. Electric field will be dp by mu p, q will cancel, and dp by dx. And this will also tell if you integrate this electric field, you will get a built-in potential, right? So you can have another relationship there. If you integrate from 1 to t2, right? So integral dp. Okay, there is a p also here, right? So it will be divided by p also, right? So dp by p will be, now d by mu is kt by q, right? So d by mu is kt by q. You can just write kt by q, and this will be integral e dx, right? Now e dx will be built-in field. So built-in field will be basically kt by q times this will be log p, right? So logarithmic ratio of p in n by p in p, right? So that will basically give you na nd by ni square. You can put, because p in n is ni square by nd, and here p is na. So if you take the division, it will become ni square by na nd. So you will get the built-in field. Let us look at it. So this is the picture under equilibrium. So at equilibrium, the Fermi level is constant, and other bands are changing. So this basically is the potential barrier for electrons. This is the potential barrier for holes, right? Because electrons have to go up, holes have to, fall the holes. This is the basically potential barrier. So they have to go up this hill. And these electrons and holes from this region, they have recombined, right? So this basically, these exposed constant charges, they do not have any carriers. Now if you look carefully, the carrier concentration is not that exactly zero there. It is there, but it's much less. So your n and p in depletion region, they are much less than nd or na, or the net value of this thing. So that's why we call it depletion region. It is not that carriers are exactly zero there. They are much less than the charge concentration there. So this you see picture here. This is the depletion region. So in the depletion region, holes have been pushed away. So there are no holes here. Electrons have been pushed away. So there are no electrons here. And only charges that are there are fixed charges, right? These are the fixed charges, and they give a electric field, right? So from positive to negative, there will be electric field. So you can represent like nd plus and na minus, right? And you can say this is the metallurgical junction x equal to 0. So this become, let's say, xn, and this become xp, or sometimes you can say minus xp. If you assume that xp, the magnitude is positive, then it becomes minus xp. And the total width of depletion region become xn plus xp. And if you recall Gauss law, what is a Gauss law? Del dot d is equal to rho, right? So if you take integral form, so d is equal to integral rho dx, right? So if you integrate here, it's a constant charge, right? So as you go along, it's a constant charge, so integral will linear, so you will get linear field here. Now at this point, this charge is maximum, is q n a times xp, right? After that, charges start decreasing, right? Again linearly, so the field start to decrease, right? So there is a maximum electric field at the metallurgical junction. Now you see is inverted here. That means the direction is in minus x direction. If you flip, let's say on the left side it is here it is p-n junction, right? If you flip it, you write n-p junction, then your field will look like this. right? It will be in positive direction because it is Pn, so it is in minus x direction. So the field is shown as negative. Okay. Okay. So there is another way to calculate the built-in potential. If you look here, this delta V, right? So this, in case of PN junction, because the material is same, these two delta V are same, right? So the barrier for electron and barrier for hole is same. And if you look carefully, what is this barrier? The separation between EF and EI in P type and separation between EF and EI in N type. When you add them, right, you get total built-in potential, right? So that's what is done here. For P side, N is equal to, or P is equal to exponential EI minus EF by KT. So P is basically doping concentration Na. So this is will be true at 300 Kelvin only. If you go to low temperature, again not true. So basically from this you can get EI minus EF for P side, and that will become KT by KT log P by Ni. P is basically Na, the doping. Similarly, EF minus EI for N type will be KT log Nd by Ni. And if you add both of them, you will get KT by Q. Where is Q there? It's QBVA, right? Yeah. So because this is the energy, right? So this is basically EI minus EF on left, EF minus EI on right, right? So they will basically add up because EF will be same. So the total energy is Q times the built-in field. And that is KT by Q log Na Nd by Ni square. Because when you add two logarithm, they multiply it, right? So you have KT by Q log Na Nd by Ni square, right? So that means the built-in field. Now this is gone here, right? So you write like this. Okay, so this is VBI. This is not QBVI, this is VBI. So you divide by Q here, divide by QBI. So it's KT by Q log Na Nd by Ni square, right? So that means for high doping, your built-in field will be more. So it is not always 0.7 or 0.6 or 0.7 we assume. It changes, but the change is very less because it is logarithmic. So let's say we change it by 10, right? Let's say from 10 raised to power 17 doping, we make it 10 raised to power 18 doping, right? So this will change by the factor of 10. So you can take this factor of 10 out and you can just write plus log 10, right? So if you change by 10, how much VBI will change? VBI will change by KT by Q log of 10. Now KT by Q is 26 milli electron volt times log of 10. What is log of 10? Base E. Base E is 2.71, right? So around 2.3. So 2.3 into 26. How much it changes? It says changes around by 50 or 70 milli electron volt, right? So it's very small change. So the potential will change by a millivolt basically because E is basically Q. So it will change by less than 0.1 volt, right? If you change the carrier concentration by order of 10 or magnitude, you change by a multiplication factor of 10, your built-in potential will change by a magnitude less than 0.1 millivolt. Sorry, 0.1 volt, right? Or around 50 to 70 millivolt. So that's why we assume that it is relatively stable around 0.6 or 0.7. And another thing to note here, in case you have very high doping, right? So in high doping, this will the Fermi level will go to the valence band here. Fermi level will go to the conduction band edge here. So the maximum potential will be basically the band gap basically, right? Because even when the Fermi level is close to the band edge, it is not non-degenerate. It becomes degenerate, right? So these expressions are no longer valid. When these Fermi level are very close to the band edges, these expressions are not valid, right? So you have to use that Fermi-Dirac integral expression. So even if we assume that they are basically at the touching the band edges, then maximum will be the band gap, right? So for silicon, what is the band gap? It's around 1.1, right? So maximum built-in potential you can have around 1.1. Now they can, of course, nothing is stopping the Fermi level from going inside the valence band or the conduction band, but that's sort of a rough idea that what could be the variation. So generally we keep them away by few kT, right? So that's why we assume few kT, basically 3 kT up, 3 kT top, so around 6 kT. So roughly we assume, let's say 10 kT. So 10 kT is basically 26 millielectron volt. So if you subtract 1.1 from 1.1, you subtract 0.26. How much you get? Around 8 something, 0.8, right? So generally Fermi levels are well below that, but 0.8 is basically the limit, right, for non-degenerate semiconductors. So basically within the non-degenerate semiconductor, the built-in potential can vary from starting from 0.6, 0.7 to 0.8 it can go. Okay. Now depletion approximation. So for depletion approximation, we assume that Fermi levels are sharp. Sorry, the depletion region is sharply defined. So it's basically perfect, right? But of course, in real life, it will not be perfect. Those carriers will change gradually. Of course, the slope can be fast or slope can be high because it's in certain terms of space. So slope can be high, but it's fairly close to the real situation. So for step junction, we are going to analyze this PN junction, right? So if you see further, this is a doping, right? So on right side, it is N type, Nd plus ions are there. It's P type, Na minus ions are there. And the depletion region is extending from Xn to Xp, right? Xn on positive side, Xp on negative side. So total width is of course Xn plus Xp. Now the field is 0 here. Field is basically field is 0 on both sides of the depletion region. So that means your potential change is changing only in the depletion region. After it's constant, right? Because field is the gradient of the potential. So that means the overall charge enclosed should be 0. Because if I see from here, charge enclosed is 0, therefore the field is 0. If I look from here, charge enclosed is 0, field is 0. So that means this positive charge here and the negative charge here should be equal. Or it is evident from case that we electrons are going from right, holes are coming from left, and they are recombining, right? So one electron will recombine with one hole only. So that means number of electron and hole that recombine should be equal. So therefore the charge here, the fixed charge here, positive and negative should be equal. So from that you can write basically Q times Nd times Xn should be equal to Q times Na times Xp, right? Now WD, the depletion width, is equal to Xn plus Xp, and this gives a relationship between Xn plus Xp, right? So you can simplify it and see W is equal to Xn plus Xp. Xp you can write from this relationship in terms of Xn and d by Na. So from this you can get Xn. Xn becomes WND by, sorry, WNA by Na plus Nd, right? Or Xn times Nd become WNA Nd by Na plus Nd. So that's what expression you get. So this is equal to total width by inverse of Na plus inverse of Nd. Now once you know the charge, you can also calculate the field Now field is epsilon E is basically the D. So D is equal to integral rho dx, right? So the field will vary linearly here, but if you want to calculate the field as a metallurgical junction, it's fairly simple because the total charge enclosed is U and D times xn, right? Or Q and A times xp, both are equal, right? And that should be equal to epsilon E, right? Now epsilon can be written as dielectric constant times permittivity of free space, right? So that gives another relationship. And from this you can also express this electric field as a function of depletion width, because we know that NAXP or NDXN is WD by NA inverse plus ND inverse, right? So you can just write QW times 1 by NA inverse plus ND inverse, right? So you can get depletion width in terms of the field. And when you integrate the field, you can get the potential. So potential electric field is equal to minus dV by dx, right? So potential will be integral of electric field dx. Now integral of this thing will basically be the area, right? And area is half base times height. So half base is basically W, height is E max. So in terms of E max, you can express the built-in field. The built-in field we have already calculated. If you see here, built-in field we have already calculated in terms of log Na ND by Ni square. So if you know the doping, you know the built-in field, and you can use that to calculate the depletion width. So depletion width will be simply 2 VBI by E max. And E max you can substitute from here in terms of WD, and then WD you take to other side. Basically, you will get the expression for depletion width. Here I have shown one part. You need not to do this, but this is basically what I have done here. 2 VBI by E max, and E max I have written from here. Q N D X N by epsilon. But if you want to see the exact expression of WD, you can basically substitute WD Xn plus XP. You can directly also write, just substitute the WD from here, or you can write Xn plus XP, and then your depletion rate basically depends on 2 epsilon times Na plus ND by Na ND VBI by Q. So that means your depletion width will increase. If your VBI increases, that means your Na or ND, the doping increases, right? And it's also related to doping directly, right? So, but VBI increases logarithmically with doping. But if you see here, so through VBI it increases logarithmically, but directly actually if you see here, it let's say if you consider both are equal, right? If the both dopings are equal, let's say 10 or 17, so this will be 2 by ND or Na, right? So it's basically decreasing, right? So with doping, the width is actually decreasing. You understand? For higher doping, the depletion width will be less because of this expression. Because of BBI, it may slightly increase, but that is logarithmic, right? So that increase will be small, and this decrease will be large. And for a higher dielectric constant, depletion will be more. And for one-sided junction, so one-sided junctions are those where let's say ND plus is much larger than Na minus, right? So in that case, most of the junction will appear across the lower doped material. Because see, the charge has to be same, right? So here is the charge density is more, so smaller width is required. Here charge density is less, so larger width is required for to compensate the same charge. And also you can express this E max in terms of depletion width. So your Emax is 2 BBI by depletion width. You can compare this thing by parallel plate capacitor, where electric field is V over D, right? So here it is basically 2 BBI by WD, because field is not constant here, right? In case of capacitor, the field is constant, right? So it's just basically the average, right? So half E max is VBI by WD, right? And that you can express in terms of built-in potential and the doping, right? So if you know the doping of the two sides of the PN junction, you can calculate the maximum electric field, you can calculate the depletion rates, you can calculate the built-in potential. So all those things you should be able to calculate. Let us look at the one-sided junction. So this is a one-sided junction. Let's say P side is heavily doped, right? So if P side is heavily doped, then Fermi level will be at the balance band edge, right? So for P side, this is basically half band gap. For N side, of course, you can calculate because it's not heavily doped. So EF minus EI will be KT by KT log ND by NI. So total built-in field will be half band gap plus KT by Q log and ND by NI. And the depletion will be mostly on the side of low doped material. And that low doped material is basically N here, right? So in N type, most of the depletion will occur here. You can calculate the ratio also, it will be very small. And since Xn and Xp, they are related to W by this expression. So if N is very large, right? So Xn will be same as W, right? Because Na is very large, so it will be 1 by 1 or infinity by infinity. Xp, Na is very large, Nd is small, so this will be a small number divided by large number, so it will be much smaller, right? So it will be almost 0. So on P side, the depletion width will be very small. Most of the depletion width will be on N side. And even on N side, if you see, Xn is W, right? But what about the expression for W? The expression for W is, now you see here, NA is much larger than ND, right? So if we substitute here, NA is much larger than ND. So this will cancel. So it will be 1 by ND, right? So depletion width will be proportional to 1 over ND. And this is same as Xn. Okay, so with this, I close this lecture. Next class, we will discuss what is the effect of applying a bias. So when we apply the bias, how the PN junction respond. So I'm ready to take questions if you have any. Let me close the recording.